views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 8 News Now or Nexstar Media Group.
Public service is a public trust.
Tonight on Politics Now, former state senator Kelvin Atkinson learns his fate after he pled guilty to charges related to pocketing campaign cash. And who will replace him in Carson City?
It just seems like we're constantly finding people that are abusing their positions of power and not understanding the word no.
On the heels of that scandal, Assemblymember Mike Sprinkle, he abruptly resigns amid sexual harassment allegations.
And a website smears victims of sexual harassment who came forward to accuse a former congressman now running for Las Vegas City Council.
From 8 News Now, this is Politics Now with Steve Sebelius and Patrick Walker.
Well, for the second week in a row, a member of the Nevada legislature resigns amidst a scandal. Thanks for joining us. I'm Steve Sebelius.
And I'm Patrick Walker. On Thursday, Reno Assemblyman Mike Sprinkle resigned, citing, quote, growing claims of sexual harassment against him. In a statement, Sprinkle says in part, quote, as for the claims against me, I am so sorry that anyone ever felt harassed or threatened by me. While that was never my intention, I am taking full responsibility for my actions and would never discredit the feelings or concerns of someone who felt wronged by me.
Assembly Speaker Jason Frierson said in part, I am deeply disappointed to learn of the behavior of a member of this body that led to his resignation. And Governor Steve Sisolak said in a statement, I am profoundly disgusted and outraged by Mr. Sprinkle's reported abuse and misconduct. Let me be perfectly clear, sexual harassment is never to be tolerated, especially by an elected official entrusted to serve the public.
Assembly Republicans also issued statements, including Minority Leader Jim Wheeler saying, quote, there is no place in this institution for sexual harassment. We are pleased that he resigned and saved the body any unnecessary distraction at such a critical time, end quote. So that had me taking a look at the recent scandals from state lawmakers.
Democrats and Republicans are condemning allegations of sexual harassment against now former Democratic Assemblyman Mike Sprinkle.
And we have one vacancy.
While Sprinkle's absence was merely noted, just over a week earlier, then Senate Majority Leader Kelvin Atkinson took to the Senate floor, tearfully resigning before pleading guilty to misusing hundreds of thousands of dollars of campaign cash.
Regretfully, it has been discovered that I have used campaign funds for personal use.
Former Democratic Congressman Ruben Kihuen was accused of harassing a lobbyist while he was a member of the state Senate, which a congressional investigative committee later found to be credible. And former state Senator Mark Menendo received a public admonishment from then Majority Leader Aaron Ford in the final night of the 2017 legislative session, after an extensive investigation into numerous allegations over the years.
None of us are beyond reproach.
Lawmakers later that night passed sweeping changes as part of a new protocol for the legislature and its employees related to harassment in the workplace. That includes automatic reporting to a third-party investigator not employed by the state. Sources tell us the claims against Sprinkle were submitted via that system.
Well, the Washoe County Commission will appoint Sprinkle's replacement in that assembly seat soon.
And on Friday, the Clark County Commission picked a replacement for Kelvin Atkinson's seat.
Commissioners unanimously chose Marcia Washington, a former member of the Nevada State Board of Education. She will serve out the rest of Atkinson's term in Senate District 4. That expires next year. The Senate Democratic Caucus recommended her to commissioners this week. Washington says she looks forward to heading up north to finishing the final 10 weeks of the session.
Well, it's intense. I don't know what bills Kevin had on the board, first of all, so I have to go and review that, and then I'll just take it from there and take off running.
10 other people applied for the position, including current and former state lawmakers. Assemblywoman Dina Neal is the current chair of the Assembly Taxation Committee and also serves on Ways and Means. Those are two critical money committees that are in the legislature. County commissioners voted 4-2 against her nomination, citing concerns about moving her out of the Assembly and the preference of the Senate Democratic Caucus for Washington instead of Neal. Well, a website that was launched a week ago is highlighting the controversy in the race for Las Vegas City Council, Ward 5. The website attacks the 3 different women who accused former Congressman Ruben Kihuen of sexual harassment, outing them and using their names and photographs.
Now, until now, only one of the 3 women who accused Kewen of harassment has been publicly identified. The website advances the theory that their accusations were unsupported or politically motivated, notwithstanding a House ethics report that found the charges credible and that resulted in official reproval of Kewen. That's the lowest level of discipline the committee can administer. One of the women behind the No Means No Rubin campaign that's working to keep Kewen off the city council called the website despicable.
It's absolutely disgusting, and whoever did it needs to come out and say who they are. And I think that the man that is at the center of all this, running for city council, Rubin, needs to not just say that he's not a part of this, but actually come out and say exactly how awful this is.
Kewen said on Twitter on Wednesday that he wasn't aware of the site, doesn't support it, and will direct his attorneys to ask that it be taken down. A search of an internet registration database conducted by 8 News Now found the website's authors are anonymous. Now, on Thursday, in response to our request, Kewen released a statement denouncing the site and saying he was concerned about the privacy of his accusers. That statement reads, quote, "I am appalled and disgusted by this rogue website. My campaign immediately issued a statement admonishing the authors when we found out about it and used the site's feedback submission form to demand they take it down. From the beginning, I have always felt and expressed deep concern for the privacy of the women involved. We have asked the Nevada Secretary of State to investigate the matter, advising them that we are not affiliated or supportive of the website in any way."
Now, at this point, this is a city council race. It's just a local race, but many now high-profile female politicians have come out against Kewen in this race specifically.
Yeah, that's right. That list includes Senators Catherine Cortez Masto and Jackie Rosen, Assembly Majority Leader Teresa Benitez Thompson, and State Senators Pat Spearman and Ivana Cancela. But the off-year municipal elections are usually very low turnout contests, which means even in a crowded race, anybody can win or at least force a runoff. And by the way, early voting in municipal elections started today and runs through March 29th.
Get out there and vote.
Well, the chief of police in Henderson is on paid administrative leave, and city officials aren't saying why.
The I-Team's Vanessa Murphy found documents that reveal trouble within the police department. Several complaints have been made about Chief Letitia Watson. She's only been there for a year and a half.
A very, very busy year.
That was Henderson Police Chief Letitia Watson in November of 2018. It was a busy year internally at the department after complaints were made and investigations took place under her leadership. Then on Thursday, a city spokeswoman confirmed Watson was on paid administrative leave and the city would provide no information or interviews about why. Watson was appointed chief in September of 2017. Her base salary last year, more than $190,000.
At some point in time, you have to say enough is enough.
Rick McCann is the spokesman for the Henderson Police Officers and Supervisors Unions. Last November, they filed this complaint against Watson, the department, the city, and Deputy Chief Thedrick Andrus for union busting.
When you snub your nose at the unions, what they stand for, the representation they provide, then you are trying to break that union process. We call that union busting.
McCann claims jobs were lost and disciplinary action, promotions, and orders didn't happen the way they should. 8 News Now also obtained 5 internal memos detailing other complaints and investigations. The I-Team tried getting Watson's side of the story at her home and on the phone, but she could not be reached.
You don't break those rules just in the idea that, hey, I'm the chief dog. I can do what I want to do. If you don't like it, too bad. Well, too bad turned into a union busting complaint. Too bad turned into a series of investigations. Too bad turned into today.
Vanessa Murphy, 8 News Now.
Well, Deputy Chief Thedrick Andrus will take over for now as acting chief. Turns out he came from Arlington, Texas. That's the same place as Watson. He's also named in the complaint that was filed by the unions as well.
Well, as we mentioned earlier, and probably will mention again, today is the first day of early voting for the municipal election primaries. Early voting runs until March 29th, and Election Day is on Tuesday, April 2nd. Now, there's some changes this year that should make it easier for you to vote. You can vote at any polling location, so even if you're voting in Las Vegas races, you can do it at a Henderson or Boulder City voting site. We have links to the voting sites on our website. That's LasVegasNow.com.
Broken record, perhaps, but Yucca Mountain is back in the president's budget.
A he's lied through his teeth about everything else. I don't know why we would expect any different from this.
Nevada Democratic Congresswoman Dina Titus reacts to the news after assurances Trump made recently right here in Nevada. That's next on Politics.
Home of the Sleep Easy Guarantee.
Welcome back to Politics Now.
There are more questions surrounding state licenses awarded in December for 61 new marijuana dispensaries. Nearly two-thirds of those licenses went to just 6 companies.
Yeah, that has now led to lawsuits, and the board overseeing the department that issued those licenses now also is asking questions.
There are more questions coming to light surrounding how the Department of Taxation, which oversees the state's marijuana industry, selected who did and did not receive licenses to build more dispensaries. Through a public records request, we've uncovered that at least one tax commissioner has a lot of questions about how the state scored and issued preliminary dispensary licenses back in December. Longtime tax commissioner George Kalesis sent a list to Commission Chair Jim DeVold with 31 questions, like where in the regulations is it permissible to hire third parties as graders? Why was this function not retained within the department? What qualifications does Manpower have to provide these individuals? What training did these graders receive? We filed an additional records request to try to see what answers he received. The Grove Dispensary is one of a dozen involved in one lawsuit, and they're asking similar questions of the department and its administrators.
And I said, I just don't understand. How is it that we got no licenses? And he said, sorry, man. And I said, well, okay, but what criteria did you use? I don't understand how the process was run. He explained to me that, by the way, the process, these 462 applications, were scored by 6 Manpower employees.
The state collected nearly $70 million in taxes the first year of recreational marijuana sales. The first thing the money funds is the cost to regulate the industry. The state hired temporary workers in Carson City to score and rank the applications instead of state staff. In a sworn affidavit after another similar lawsuit in December, Health Program Manager Steve Gilbert, in charge of the process of scoring the applications, answered some questions, saying the graders affirmed, quote, they didn't have any personal or business relationships to the marijuana industry, end quote. But beyond that, the state has neither said anything about who the graders are nor their qualifications.
I'm alarmed by the fact that they use temp workers.
Attorney and former Secretary of State Ross Miller is representing the Grove and its co-complainants.
So the fact that they contracted it out to some temporary employees shouldn't give them any additional basis to keep this process secret.
A Department of Taxation spokesperson says the agency does not comment on pending litigation, but in a statement told us, quote, "From the outset, the department has been as transparent as we can without violating the confidentiality of license applicants. The department remains committed to the principle of transparency and will continue to provide it in every manner possible that does not put us in violation of Nevada law or administrative code."
Well, the Tax Commission also canceled a scheduled meeting to discuss marijuana-related issues this week.
President Donald Trump has released his skinny budget, and it includes money to restart the Yucca Mountain process. Opposing the proposed nuclear waste repository is one of the things almost all of Nevada politicians agree on.
The budget includes $116 million to restart the licensing process there. I asked one of Yucca Mountain's biggest critics, Nevada's Democratic Congresswoman Dina Titus, about the issue. This is an issue kind of like whack-a-mole, right? We see it continue to pop up every time that the administration puts a budget out there. What's your reaction to the latest proposal from the president regarding Yucca Mountain funding?
Well, I'm not really surprised. You know, he came to Elko several months ago campaigning for Dean Heller and said, well, I don't think it should go where people don't want it, so it probably won't come here to Nevada. I said at the time, unlike some of my colleagues who took some hope with that, he's lied through his teeth about everything else. I don't know why we would expect any different from this, because he's put money in the budget before, he's appointed pro-Yucca people, so it's kind of in keeping with their strategy. But now we just really have to fight it.
Do you have any expectation that you'll make any ground with the administration, that our delegation will? I mean, we had the plutonium shipment as well that came here, so there are a couple of recent instances where it would seem that that door is pretty much closed.
Well, I think that's right. I think we're going to have to fight it with our colleagues in the Congress. On the House side, Nancy Pelosi has been opposed to it. We've been able to stop the budget money going forward in the past, either through the conference committee or some other means. We're going to work it there. So, you know, this is just a skinny budget that the president puts forth. It'll be changed a lot from here on as the Congress takes a look at it. And I'm hoping that Yucca Mountain will be one of those categories.
Another Nevada Democrat, Congressman Stephen Horsford, is on the Budget Subcommittee and spoke out strongly against storing nuclear waste at Yucca Mountain.
Well, how to combat climate change?
I think this new Green Deal by Ocasio-Cortez is insane.
This is also a health issue at the end of the day.
Our face-off panel takes on the direction of Nevada's legislature in signing on to the Paris Climate Agreement Alliance.
And Nevada lawmakers propose a bump stock ban, the bill to finally take action more than a year and a half after the October 1st shooting. That's next on Politics.
The I-Team, only on 8 News Now.
Governor Steve Sisolak announced Nevada is joining an alliance of states that support the tenets of the Paris Climate Agreement. It's part of a push for climate-friendly policies in Carson City. We asked our face-off panel about the issue. Here's KXNT radio host Alan Stock from the right and Battleborn Progress Deputy Director Maria Teresa Lieberman from the left.
Is this something to you that has been long overdue?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, we were happy to be there when the governor announced this earlier this week. It's an amazing, initiative that bipartisan governors all across the state, all across the country are doing, not just to combat climate change, but to also locally within their own states reach certain conservation and renewable energy goals. So it's exciting to have Nevada sign on to that. We've been doing that proactively for a few years, really, expanding our clean energy, renewable energy industry and goals here. So it's just an additional, sign off that, Nevada is going to do the best that it can to, conserve our state and conserve our world.
First of all, you've had this clamor about global warming for a long time. Then when they decided that there was a negligible amount of global warming, they had to go to climate change and whatever. Okay, I mean, climates have gone through changes every 100 years, every 1,000 years on this planet, so they find, by looking back into it, people much smarter than me can look into this stuff and they can say, yes, things change, but it's not changing just because people are using hairspray or because of cars. There are a lot of other reasons that they're changing. People who are making more pollution in this world than we are places like India and like China, and we're supposed to be thinking about carbon taxes and our carbon footprints and everything like that, and while other people keep producing their pollution. I think it's a very, very, very political situation. It's the PC thing right now, to be able to come out and go, yeah, we got to do whatever they can, green and everything else.
Forgetting, what the Green New Deal is, because there are certain issues with that. Here locally, what we're trying to do, we're not going to try to get rid of airplanes and things like that. We're trying to, get more people in electric vehicles, get people access to solar panels, get people access to renewable energy, other types of renewable energy as well, at an affordable rate. There are people that are suffering from increased pollution, from having, old fossil fuel plants near their homes. So this is also a health issue at the end of the day.
I want us to be energy independent. I think this new Green Deal by Ocasio-Cortez is insane, and those Democrat presidential candidates who are supporting her are pandering as well. I think it's completely insane. I do support the idea of being energy independent. For me, that means using and exploiting all means of energy. You talked about electric cars, you want solar, you want wind power. I'll go along with all that. I also believe in fracking. I believe in oil, and I also happen to believe in nuclear.
We can also watch our panel debate a bill that would give the public less access to police body camera footage, whether the state's process of awarding marijuana licenses is fair, and Democratic leaders who say they don't favor impeaching President Donald Trump. That's on LasVegasNow.com. Look under the News tab for the political news link. Patrick?
All right, Steve, this is Eye on Carson City, where some other bills that we are keeping an eye on are getting some hearings this week. A bill in the legislature would keep hotels and motels from sharing guest information with immigration officials. SB 229 would require cops to get a warrant before seeking out personal information. State Senator Mo Dennis sponsored that bill after it was revealed that Motel 6 locations in other states released names of Latino guests to ICE agents. A new bill would add a bump stock ban here in Nevada. SB 261 would apply to any device attached to a semi-automatic firearm that speeds up the rate of fire. A federal ban takes effect next week, but if a judge overturns that and Nevada passes this one, they would still be illegal here in Nevada. And a bill to change how Nevada is enforcing the regulations on advertising for pot dispensaries had its first hearing this week.
The overwhelming majority of establishments are in compliance with our strict regulatory framework. If you tell them what the rules are, they follow them.
Well, Well, the Nevada Dispensary Association is in favor of Assembly Bill 164. That's sponsored by Democratic Assemblyman Steve Yeager. Nevada has some of the strictest rules on ads. Those would not change, but right now the ads must be pre-approved before they can be used. This bill would end that and focus instead on enforcing the law against dispensaries that are doing things like advertising to children. Stay with us. We'll be back right after.
Work hard. Don't just kind of TV, DirecTV.
You're watching Politics Now.
A game of one-upsmanship in the Colorado State Senate led to computers reading off a 2,000-page bill. Listen.
12-40.5-106-5B 12270-107-5B. 12-40.5-106-5C.
Well, Republicans who are in the minority complained that the 2,000-page bill was being rushed through, so they invoked a procedural maneuver that allows them to request that the whole bill has to be read out loud. Democrats brought in 5 computers to simultaneously read the bill, cutting an estimated 60-hour read time down to 5.
This is What to Watch. We are keeping an eye on early voting. First of all, as we told you earlier in the show, it's easier than ever to get out and vote. Second, we'll be looking to see those early voting numbers. Races are nonpartisan, but there are several hotly contested city council races this year.
And the city of Las Vegas will be deciding how to replace Councilman Steve Soroka, who abruptly resigned last week. They'll decide whether to pick a replacement or hold a special election at their March 20th meeting.
Well, that's our show. Thanks for watching Politics Now.
All right, we'll see you next weekend.